Rick Snyder, car 05, the Blue Force 914.6.
The races is almost like a parallelism to what I went through with the cancer. Is like, you're down, you're out, there's no hope in front of you. But hey, do we still have the will? And if there's a will, there's a way. We'll figure it out. Let's do it. Let's kind of keep going. So my mom would sometimes take me shopping with her, and I would beg her to buy me a Hot Wheels car. And if I was good, she'd get me one. And I found myself going to the store more and more with my mother in hopes of scoring another cool Hot Wheels. And then I couldn't wait to get home and get my Lincoln Logs set out and build garages to park the new Hot Wheels in. And so began my love of cars.
So do you still have any of your Hot Wheels collection?
I have all of them. Every single one I've ever owned. And my wife, because you get older, you don't know what to get your spouse for birthday, or his birthdays get celebrated, you're kind of like, okay, it's another year. She always finds the coolest Hot Wheels for me. But I've always been interested in learning, especially history, and then you combine the history with automotive history, and you really get me excited to learn about different makes and models of cars and why they were developed, and the creativity of man to make such a vehicle when it could just be a box on wheels, but to style it or to engineer it to do certain things is fantastic to me, and I always thought that was really cool of mankind to do that in engineering. So I was born in Cleveland and did kindergarten, first grade. We moved to Michigan around that time, and then was raised in Michigan outside of Detroit in a town called Livonia until about mid-8th grade year. And then my father accepted a position in New York City and then moved to New Jersey, did my 4 years of high school in New Jersey. But always came back to Ohio, always had the summer home at Put-in-Bay. Our families are all from Put-in-Bay. Always had summer homes going back generations. Getting my license being that I went to high school in New Jersey. So growing up in the Midwest in Michigan and Ohio, the driving age was 16. You could get your license at 15 and a half, your permit. In New Jersey, you couldn't get until you were 17. So I felt like I was very angry at that time because if we were still living back in Michigan or Ohio, I'd already be driving. So to get to the point where I could finally get my driver's license, that's all I could think about was driving. That's all I wanted to do was get a car and go on road trips. Was on a date with the girl, our first date, and she says, "What are you into?" And I said, "I really like cars, and especially 1960s cars and vintage cars." And she says, "Oh, my dad has one, it's for sale." And I says, "What does he have?" And she says, "I think it's a Malibu." I said, "Are you sure it's Malibu?" She's like, "Yeah." I go, "How many doors does it have?" And she goes, 2. And I said, 2 doors on each side or 2 doors total? She said, 2 doors total. And I said, "Can we go look at it?" She's like, "Right now?" And I said, "Yes, please." So went and looked at it, and the guy wanted $375 for the car, and it was up on blocks and hadn't been driven in a long time. And I went home, and my dad said, "No, absolutely not, you can't buy that car." And my sister pulled me down the hall and said, "I have $400 I can give you." So I quickly took my sister up on the offer and went and bought the car.
I think it makes pretty good power because you see the way it wants to move on the dyno. Yeah, and cars,
a little bit.
they don't do that. So I think it makes pretty
Race
good
cars
power.
do that, but cars don't do that. Huh?
Well, typically with the sticky tires, it wouldn't roll. It wouldn't move on, so it's making good power. We'll know shortly.
Okay.
Right, that's your torque curve, so
They're pretty close in line, aren't they?
yeah, nice and flat too. Being that rich, making that power, I might be
good.
Yeah,
All right.
I can probably do that. I can probably get 180.
So I was in Connecticut, living in Connecticut at the time, working in the machine tool and factory automation business. And I had an issue with a car that I was driving as my daily driver. I had a blown head gasket, and I loved the car, and I wanted to get it fixed. I didn't want to have to scrap the car. So I found a local German mechanic that could work on that car, and he was able to go ahead and shave the head, machine the head down, put on the new head gasket because it was warped, and put it back together again. And he said to me, he said, "Did you ever consider running this car in a race or in an autocross or a gymkhana?" I said, "No, what's that?" And he describes it to me, and he tells me that he's going to go to, in Connecticut, they have Lime Rock Park, and they had, I think it was a Firestone, and then there was also the Fairfield County Sports Car Club, had all these different events, and he was gonna go to one on that weekend. And he said, "Why don't you come and be a part of my pit crew and learn kind of what it's about?" I said, "You're kidding me, I can do this?" He said, "Yeah, I'd love to have you." So I showed up that Saturday and helped him prep his car. And I watched him race with his helmet on and drive as fast as he could. And I said, "That's it, I want in, I'm hooked, I want to do this." So the next event, I signed up with him, and he helped me and acclimated me to the whole, how the whole situation works and how the timing works, and haven't looked back since. Met a woman, fell in love after I didn't think I was going to ever get married again. Got married again because she kind of became my MacGyver for me, fixing cars. There's a story I remember very, very clearly that she was over visiting one Sunday morning, and we had coffee together. And she says, "What were your plans today?" Before I came over. And I said, I was going to go out to the Mustang that I had at the time. And I was going to put in racing seats in the Mustang and put in new harnesses in it and get it prepped to do some events. And she says, "Oh, that's interesting. Well, let's go out there and let's take a look and see what you're doing." And I started working on the driver's seat, and she says, "Oh, is that a 12 millimeter or a 10 millimeter wrench you're using?" And I said, I believe it's a 12. And I look at it, and she goes, "Oh," and she goes over the toolbox and she starts taking out the passenger seat. And it was just fell right for her at that moment. That she wanted to be in the garage with me working on a car was just heavenly to me.
We met in 2005. We met actually on a dating site. And I was going to Florida, so like he had messaged me, and I think I responded, and then I kind of was on a hiatus until after the holidays. And so I reached back out to him and I said, "Are you still free?" And he was, and so then we met for drinks. And from the time we got engaged to marriage, it was 2 years. So we met in 2005, and then we married in 2007.
I was starting to feel bad in 2014, and it was towards the end of the year. I had just come back from a business trip to Germany, and was feeling horrible in Germany the whole trip, and told my wife when I got back that that trip didn't go so well. I was having some health issues. I wasn't feeling right. Just things weren't working right for me. I was very tired all the time. And she says, well, why don't we get you checked out? And this is in December. And I said, why don't I just go through the holidays first? I don't want to have a bunch of doctor's appointments right around Christmas and New Year's. After New Year's, we'll go see a doctor and see what's kind of going on. My wife works for University Hospitals, and at the time she was working for the head of oncology at University Hospitals. She made an appointment for me to see the doctor in February. So I went in February for a colonoscopy and woke up from the colonoscopy from being twilighted. My wife was standing next to me crying, trying to get me dressed, and I was just kind of waking up out of this stupor. And I said, what's going on? And she says, we need to get you to a surgeon right away. You have a tumor and we need to have it staged. It doesn't look good, Scott, as bad. So she immediately got me dressed and got me in the car and drove me an hour away to another hospital where a surgeon could see me right away. And he was able to perform a surgery where they're what they call staging the tumor and understanding where it's at, what it's doing, what size it is, and the severity of it.